Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in X, presented by Crushing Comics. We are here today to talk about Hellions. Number 11 was out on the 5th of May, 2021, and our discussion comes with the same spoiler warning every week. We're going to talk about all of the details of this issue, how they connect to the history of X-Men and the history of Marvel, so it's a full spoilers discussion, and you've been warned. For Hellions number 11, starting as we always do, Tyler, what were your initial reactions to this issue?
I think Wells stuck the landing. In this issue, for this arc, supported by great art from Segovia, and it alleviated the fear that this arc is all jokes and there is like no meat to the story. So I actually really enjoyed it. So I give it a 4.25. Centrifuge out of 5.
Harry.
All right, so I'm going to lead off by saying Segovia was phenomenal in this issue. And I think he got to kind of draw some different kind of environments and settings. And that was really cool. That said, I did not like this issue very much. I think it was, to Tyler's point, it is a more serious issue. I will give it that. My issue is that half of this takes place in a dream sequence, which doesn't hold a lot of weight for me in this moment. The other half is, I think the plot is a little convoluted and a little too like cutesy for its own good, where kind of the plot goes like, oh, there's this whole other thing's been happening, and it didn't really land for me. And then finally, I don't think this issue has that many good jokes, which is kind of surprising for me. And I think a lot of it hinges on a choice they do with Sinister with a lot of his delivery. But I think Wells thought it was funnier than it was. I was kind of surprised. I do think it ends in an interesting place, but I would give this a 3.
All right, no qualifiers, no 3, just a 3.
Oh, right.
Just like
I give
it's
it
Fariha. Just no introduction, no context. It's a 3.
Yeah, 3 silences out of 5. It's just quietly, yeah.
So the thing is, Sinister stuff became infinitely funny if you actually think about it from Donald Duck point of view. Like, think about it, he's talking like Donald Duck. It's infinitely funny. So the thing is, like, I was thoroughly disappointed how it ended. Like, not the super last thing, but the whole point about Sinister Mastermind and how they were in on it and all of that, because that's something we actually predicted. So I don't know. I'm like, it's always kind of annoys me when I'm smarter than the writers, because like, okay, then what's your point of existing? But the art was really great. I liked some of the jokes and everything that was there. I especially liked where Kwannon is going. Kwannon, sorry,
Don't
not
say
QAnon.
that.
Yeah, not Kwannon. Sorry, we're Kwannon.
This took a weird turn on YouTube. Don't take it there.
I was like, what?
I know.
We're gonna go warning, put on this video.
Yeah, oh my God.
You just put us all on a watch list. You know that.
Damn. Sorry about that. Like, that's my just my language. It's you know why? Because I have 2 root canals. That's why. And I like my 2 root canals. I'll also give it 2 root canals out of 5.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Well, I think this is going to be one where we're all coming with a slightly different slice of opinion here, because I think this is, again, Segovia's turning into a really reliable superstar with me. It used to be kind of like, okay, but with him, but there's no more buts left. Like, I think I really just enjoy him really consistently. I, like Harry, don't really love dream sequences, and so a lot of this didn't hold a lot of weight. I think it belabored this clone reveal, which we'll talk about, in a way that I think we could have maybe got to last issue, and it just felt like a lot of the dream things felt much more personal last issue, and then it stopped feeling personal in this issue. But most of all, I do not read characters when they're not speaking in legible English. I just don't. I skip all those word balloons. So there may have been jokes. I don't know. I read one and I'm like, okay, this is too hard. And then I just give up. So I didn't actually read any of Sinister's dialogue in this issue. You'll have to tell me everything that he said.
Before we start, can I talk about the cover?
Please do.
Yeah.
Yes. So I just want to talk about the cover, because the cover is the purple-haired Kwannon is holding the black-haired one in a very oh my God, I'm in pain. And it's like talking about like holding the hair. So we talked about it in a future episode because like X-Men comics, our timeline is also broken, about how it's a very much of a gendered thing to hold a superhero's hair like that. Like you don't see that male superheroes ever. Like, that even if they have the longer hair, you never see that they're being held back by their hair. It's a very women, a thing against women to be used like a weapon, like use their own hair against them. And we have seen it many times it shows up twice in the amount of Claramons we read. And in that time, I'm like, okay, this was like the past and all that. And then in 2021, we were also seeing that. And I actually, this morning, I went and looked for, superhero defeated cover. And I looked up whole bunch of male superhero covers. And in all of them, I'm not saying that don't show, female superheroes defeated. Go ahead. Because we have male equivalent of that too. And in all of them, it was like, they're just like punched. They're like going this way. They're just lying down when a villain just over them and all of that. For women, it's always like something to do with their hair. They're lying in a very sexual position. So both their boobs shows up like Mount Everest. That's the focal point. Or in a situation of Batwoman, there was a Detective Comics thing where there's a sword that's went through her boobs. Like that's the thing. So, I mean, I don't know. I just kind of was like, ugh. I saw this cover way before when it was first revealed. And I'm like, really? And the thing is, the story point is not even there. It's not even within the story. So that's I was like, oh. Anyway,
I think it's the combination of that for me, because you have this cover here that Segovia, who drew the cover as well as the interiors, I think he really did a good job in a lot of aspects of the cover. I think the two Betsies, or the Betsy and Kwannon, the two Psylocks, look really distinct from each other. I think they look muscular. I don't think he's done too much to overemphasize their physique in sort of like a gross male-gazy way, other than the thing that Fariha is talking about being like a specific trope. And it just bothers me that it had to be that. I just her fist around the sword and then the other one trying to with her foot on it. It's really dynamic. And I kind of just wish that it didn't make that the focal point. And then also to Fariha's point, this version of Psylocke Betsy only shows up for a panel in the whole issue. So it's kind of just, how about pull Grey Crow by his hair just for a change? He's got long hair.
Let's not pull anyone's hair.
Pull Arcade's hair. He does. You
know what? Yeah, he deserves it for signing off with apostrophe Cade. That's why he deserves it, not for anything else. How dare you?
Also, yeah. I think I've come pretty close to the Arcade hairdo today. I know it's not red, but if you look at his little Murder World logo, he's got a little bit more of a Farrah Fawcett curl on the one side. But I think I'm almost there. So speaking of Arcade. So last week we were introduced to his loyalty protocols, which is basically he holds hostage someone of every employee and he threatens them with death. And that's how he gets good performance from his employees, including Mastermind, because he has Lady Mastermind captured, who Mastermind maybe doesn't care about. Maybe we guessed it. We'll get there. But it all kind of goes to show that he's been manipulated into a very sinister situation because he's cloning people, because he's been convinced that clones are the murder world of the future, except for nobody thought through that after he had clones, he would just have baby clones. And so he's kind of stuck in this standoff with Sinister and Mastermind, which kind of allows them to pause and be distracted long enough for Kwannon to break out. But before we get to that, let's kind of just talk about the full arc through the issue of this Arcade clone saga. Does it make any sense? What is Sinister getting from it in the end? What do we think about this manipulation that some of us saw coming far, far ahead? Tyler?
I mean, I think specifically was the one who's like, oh, do you think Mastermind and Sinister are cooking something together? This is a plot. And at that time I was like, maybe not. I'm not sure. But you were pretty convinced that was the case. And it turns out to be the case. It turns out that Arcade hired Mastermind to kidnap Sinister, and then Sinister double-crossed. Sinister bought out Mastermind and double-crossed Arcade, basically. I mean, I think the thing that struck me here was that Sinister now has his farm. And in Life 9, it was the Martian pits that created the chimeras, but here it could be the farm. And they are also in New York City. So there is also the man-machine coalition who created House in the South Sand Canal, which is Salem Center, which is in New York. So I thought this obliquely brought back those, it hinted a little bit at what could have happened or what could be in Life 9 into Life 10. And I thought that was really interesting. And we know Sinister betrayed the Krakoans. And here is the first step to his betrayal. Maybe different from Life 9, maybe the same. We do not know because we do not know the details of Life 9.
Really interesting stuff. Time for everybody to go back to Hoxpox 2 and Pox number 1 and 2 and study all of the information about Life number 9 as Tyler has done. Harry, what about you? What did you think about this this clone plot?
On a macro level, it was interesting because I do want to see what he's doing with these clones. But in the moment, I was more just kind of tired of the root canal shtick. So I was just like, happy for you, very glad. Let's move this one along, which isn't the reaction you want when you're reading something for enjoyment. But yeah, like I like what you're bringing up, Tyler. Just like this does kind of tie into the larger story. It cannot be anything good on any level. I was kind of just more like happy to see it move forward in a meaningful way than I was like enjoying the beat in the moment.
Fariha, what about you?
Well, what Tyler said actually made sense. But the thing is, like, why is Sinister waiting for Arcade to start all the plot? Like, it seems like it was a moment, is an opportunity that he took. So why he's waiting for that? And is no one following Sinister? Or maybe we're going to get that later? Like, because Professor X and Magneto is aware of all these lies. So are they not keeping a better eye on him? Or maybe they are, we just don't know it yet. It was just like, okay. Like, to me, I was like, okay, I'll see where it goes. But I'm just tired of this. Like, I was tired, I was just tired, like, okay, like, sure.
So you're just tired of this arc involving this plan, or
I am.
It just went in a very long about way to get us there. Like, I feel like there was like a shortcut to get us there. We didn't need Arcade. This is like, this was not needed. And it felt like a more like, Gala's coming, wrap it up.
That's kind of my big, and I felt that way about a few of the books, but I'm surprised this is one of them where it was like, it felt kind of like filler.
Yeah, and then also like after Excalibur, like where we saw Kwannon, so which probably came after this, it felt like, okay, we kind of already knew it. So it's a release date issue. It's not necessarily writer's issue. So there was a little bit of that too. So I was like,
yeah, I was thinking about that because they established that this probably did take a week all told. And I was thinking, well, then does that mean all of the other Kwannon appearances we've seen recently have to come before this just because they're like away for so long? But then I came to what Fariha was saying. I was like, well, if that happened before this, like, does this hold any weight? Because that kind of resolves her plot with Betsy, and like, would that even appear to her here? But sticking to the clone thing for a second, I don't mind when a writer resolves the hints that we pulled upon. I prefer that to mystery box. I'm not a mystery box fan. I don't like that concept. I don't think you have to always pull the rug out from under me in the final issue. A lot of times the pulling the rug or making the rug so complex that you never realized it was a rug or the pattern on the rug, I think that's more of a failure. And I think that's, if we go into some of my problems with Hickman historically, it's because I think the rug gets needlessly complicated before it gets pulled out from under you. And so I don't necessarily have a dispute with this clone thing kind of rewarding exactly the reward that we thought. And if I think back, I think the thread we actually pulled upon was that, like, would Mastermind care that much about his daughter? It's clearly a setup. And I enjoy that was the way that it actually kind of like unspooled. And at the end, Mastermind's like, kill him. And she's like, great, thanks, Dad, because that kind of like was set up well. But I kind of agree with everything that we're saying. I don't think that it was a bad comic book issue necessarily. I just don't know that we needed this much real estate to get to this clone ending. I think the clone farm ending is interesting, that Sinister basically wants more satellites of power beyond Bar Sinister. Even though Bar Sinister already is a step removed from Krakoa, he wants even more things removed, which is kind of ironic because at the beginning of this series, he made it out like the Hellions were going to be going around and killing all of his remaining original cradles. And then he's totally reversed course and he's making new ones right now. So I think all of that is like super thematically interesting. I just don't know if we need 3 or 4, however many issues it's been, 10, 20, 10, a number that doesn't even exist to get to this.
Right. So you know why he changed course, though? It's a different Sinister than the first one.
Do you think it's really because it's a different Sinister that got killed in X of Swords? Do you think that's why?
Yeah, because if you look at the Hellions 13 cover, you'll see that.
I don't look at cover. I don't read mishmash dialogue. I don't look at solicits.
Oh, so, okay, fine. But the thing is, like, no, I think it's a different. To me, I think it's a difference. But the thing is, I think the reason I was so done with the whole clone thing because I'm actually because I read Gillen's X-Men pretty recently, and I'm just done with Sinister being obsessed with clones. It's like get it together, man. Like just get it over with. Like okay, I get it. Like,
he's living on Cool Island, and he's just still wants to deal with the clones.
You know, like Dr. Nemesis was saying, like, you know, this is let him do whatever he wants to do. Give me all the power. I'll be the head of everything.
Yeah,
it's not looking like such a bad idea right now.
Let's talk about the dream sequences, right? I mean, the fact that Kwannon has to kill so many different Psylocke, it just speaks to like how confused she is, I think. Right, I think she
You sound confused.
I mean she has been taken over by Betsy for so long, and you know, and she's trying to find her own identity, and everyone that comes for her she kills. So that I thought that kind of tracks with what happens after that in Excalibur, because she finally she's like, I know who I am now, right? And then, you know, and then of course it also establishes Grey Crow's crush on her here, and her dependency on Grey Crow by calling out for John in the past issue. So I thought there was a little bit of like character development here. And also there was a little bit of a silent redemption of Empath here, because Empath was jumping to help Alex when that that Mojo Kwannon basically hung Alex off the cliff with the collar. So I think there are a little bit of, you know, character development here.
Ooh, now it's like 3 root canal out of 5.
Still giving it a 3.
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree with the Kwannon thing you said. Like, you know, that this kind of explains her Excalibur characterization. And another thing I actually kind of liked about it, because we talked about like, oh, you know, getting the women by her Netherlands, but because there's a baby involved, you know. But one of the things I liked about it is just her reaction to those things. They're just seething anger. Like it's not like, but it's like, I'm coming after you, like, you know. And then it just like there was like this seething anger that's about her that I'm like, oh, that's different. Let's talk about this. And honestly, after that 2 panels, I went and ordered Excalibur 13, the Duoderman variant cover, because it has a her on it. So it's today's all about covers, people. Well, but you know, but the thing is, I really liked that.
Yeah, and it also speaks to the strength of Segovia's art here, because of the great facial acting here. There was one panel of like Grey Crow saying, "Sure, buddy," to Alex.
Yeah, that's good.
And I thought that was
awesome. Sure. No, it was like, sure, buddy. It's like, and she doesn't know, like the way he's like, and she doesn't know I'm not alone. I'm like, oh.
You've never seen a less convinced person in your life.
Yeah. And didn't we say that? Are you sure that was Alex's nightmare? No, that wasn't Alex's nightmare last issue.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a nightmare for him.
No, his nightmare was being left alone. His nightmare wasn't being chained up as a dog.
It's like, I'm not scared of being alone.
Yeah.
Sure, buddy.
Well, what do you think about ultimately Kwannon's breakout here? You know, they're all being chased by their various fears. but she's had much more time to deal with her fears. And it's very like Inception. Like Mastermind had to bury her deeper. And so more time is passing for her, but it's also honed her more because she's had more time pass. I mean, did she have to reach that moment in order to break out? Like, it wasn't, if she had stayed by herself, would she have ever gotten there? Did she need to feel like she had a team of people that she was responsible for to give her that final catalyst to be able to kind of break through and get back out into the non-psychic world?
I feel that's clearly yes. Like, she even mentions that there's gravity when the group of them start to assemble. Like, that is more of the force that she's able to use to get through this. Even though, like, she's become a very hardened, like powerful version of herself through time, but she's still like within the dream entirely. It's just like a longer dream for her. When she sees the others, then it starts shifting and Mastermind starts having some issues.
But then also at the same time, it's like, I think she needed all this time just to focus on this one thing. And because she kept focusing on this one thing and just killing it again and again. And then it's like, she just got like, I just need to get over this. I don't know. Part of me kind of understands with that too.
I think she basically just got down to the core that Mastermind could not touch her with. And then she got awakened by the group, basically. Yeah. And that was why she's like, give me a moment. And she went silent because she basically went into herself, I think, and somehow hid herself from Mastermind. And how, look, Mastermind, regardless of how powerful he is, he still needs technology to help him, just like in Dark Phoenix Saga, just like here. And I thought that was a pretty good, a little bit of a good callback, as well as the last part with Arcade, talking about him torturing the teddy bear, which tracks with the Annocenti Classic 31 backup story.
Oh, yeah.
See.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I'm going to clone my daddy and my mommy and then I start killing them again, that kind of thing. So, like, that tracks with that weird story, that weird Annocenti story.
We're going to send you the number, Harry. You just
I didn't know it was connected.
It wasn't something we would have recommended before today, but now we care.
Yeah. It's classic X-Men 31.
I thought that was kind of like in this moment, as an unfamiliar reader with that story, like, I thought it was kind of like a very generic, like, I'm a crazy sadist kind of thing. Like, I felt to me like kind of lacking personality weirdly, which is weird because it's Wells and Arcade, and yet I don't know. It wasn't hitting for me in the moment.
Well, we end this in an interesting spot in terms of, again, the standoff between Sinister and Kwannon. Kwannon knows everything. Sinister's whole plan with her at this point is pretty much let her know all she wants, because Sinister's convinced that his holding on to her child and the ability to potentially resurrect and restore her child is enough that he can twist her to be complicit in everything, which is actually a really interesting beat between a villain and a hero, that she just absolutely can't break the faith and she can do everything she can to undermine him, but she just can't speak up. It's a really good blackmail plot, I think, because as the issue points out, she is growing in her trust with everybody else. And at some point, we're going to come to a point where her trust for them is going to have to outweigh Sinister's blackmail of her. That, to me, seems like what's getting set up. But what do you think about where they leave off here? Like, why would she not just go to the Quiet Council? Do you really think that Sinister's promise that he's the only one who can resurrect her child is enough to motivate her to stay silent about now him having his own external clone farm?
I don't know if it has to do with her trust with the council, especially given how, her and Betsy sort of blindsided the council later on.
That's why I wanted that to happen before this, ultimately, because I wanted her to be like, well, darn, we've already tried that. And Sinister has so much power there. Because if you recall, Sinister kind of shut her down a little bit in that scene. But again, it's one of those interesting things that it kind of plays in a different way, no matter what order you put them in. But Harry, did you have any thoughts about where we leave off with Kwannon and Sinister here?
Well, it's the closest thing to like straight face drama in this book, where a lot of stuff's just kind of like having a good time in its messed up way. But this is clearly where the book is going, and I'm like all in on this. I do love how nakedly arrogant and just like upfront, like about the blackmail that Sinister's holding over her, because it makes
and
him
the
just
mastermind
look,
was like,
and like it's just like this guy's so full of himself and he's so sure he's got to unlock, and you can just feel that pressure building, and that was the most effective part of the book for me. But to your point about the Quiet Council, I mean, we haven't seen a lot of it like on the page, but it's clearly there's like a bureaucracy and a hierarchy to this resurrection protocols that, like, you know, it doesn't seem like if you're not fighting, if you're not a mutant on a mission, or you're not someone with powers, that you're going to be at first of the queue. So I could understand Kwannon just being like, this seems like a long process. I don't even know if it's promised I'll get my kid back. It could be years. They've mentioned this could be a huge thing. So if Sinister's just dangling the immediacy of that, you know, obviously it's her kid. I could see her just being like, yes, please. Like, this is much more like immediate for me.
her kid is
I'm
also not shown to be a mutant yet.
Very good.
And Sinister would be the expert in non-mutant.
I need to read Fallen Angels.
But Fariha's been hanging on for a while now. Fariha, bring us home on this point.
No, I mean, I was just saying that maybe the whole suddenly trying to be friends with Betsy was because of that. Because, you know, she's probably thinking that with the other world connection, somehow Betsy can help her indirectly somehow. So, and then maybe the whole everything with the Quiet Council is for her to figure out how everything works. Where does Sinister actually stands with Quiet Council and what she can do and she cannot do, you know. I would be super disappointed if Sinister is just going around and doing all of these things and we're spending resources following the kids I should not mention, that we're putting our resources in there and no one is following. Like, I am just every time I think about this, it just circles back to my hatred for that one thing. Like, it just, like, I would be so disappointed if, like, no one is following up with Sinister. The fact that that means that X-Force has no reason to exist.
But if they were, we wouldn't have a book.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm not saying that this shouldn't happen. I'm like, you know, I'm just saying that I would be very disappointed if there's no one is like, hey, we kind of knew what you've been up to, and we let you do all of this because we had this other reason to. You know?
That feels like a good joke in this book. Like, oh yeah, we knew.
Yeah,
you thought this was a big deal. No, we know for sure.
Yeah, like that is one. I mean, I really hope that it happens.
I mean, back to the point about Kwannon trying to get more information with Betsy because of Otherworld. I mean, the other way I think we can look at it is because she learned that she need to have a core group in order to find herself again in the dream sequence. And at the end of this, she basically betrayed her group. She betrayed them because of the circumstances that Sinister and Mastermind put her in, right?
Sure.
So she might have just decided that, you know what, I'm just going to go outside of this group and befriend a bunch of ladies.
Yes.
And, you know, and make sure that, you know, the convoluted stuff with Betsy is clean cut and clear. And, you know, and I have my core groups there of support our foundation that is not influenced by Sinister in any way. So that could also be the reason.
I'm glad that, you know, that I had going into this Hellions, I didn't think that she will be the breakout character for me. And she slowly is becoming a breakout character for me, just because the sheer force of this and Excalibur. Like, you know, now Excalibur is good, you guys.
What's happening?
The world is upside down. I mean, that would be my final comment probably on this too, which is that I think it's actually, even if I was soft on this issue, it might be the first issue of Hellions that I've actually been this soft on. And it's doing an ingenious thing where it's a villain book. It's about Sinister, and he's revealing his plots as we go. And we're getting to watch this one villain develop a long game plot and be a main character in their own book. And like, that's not something that Marvel tends to always carry off really well if your name is not Loki. That's like that, you know, many people have had success with Loki doing it. Not so many other people have figured out a way. Cullen Bunn with Magneto, you could argue did it in Marvel now. You can argue that some people done it with Dr. Doom, but like, this is really an interesting thing. And then to have the other lead character be Kwannon, who's never held down a book really on her own before, although surely some people are buying it because that's their Psylocke because she's like in that costume. But all of us who are reading it and enjoying it, this is a relatively new character to us to be actually given her own personality and her own agency. And it's a raging success. I mean, if there's one slow issue, we're still tuning back in ultimately next time to read about Sinister and Kwannon. It's a weird world we're living in right now. And Nanny. And like, you know, but it goes to show that other books could probably get away with this too. You know, if you give a villain who's a popular villain an interesting enough long-term goal, you can actually stand to follow them over time, and the book can actually be quite delicious.
That's like, I was thinking about that earlier today. Like, you know, I don't know how much this book will tie into the master plot at the end of the day. It seems like it could maybe not much because that's kind of its style, but like, it's cool that this book had the room to breathe and to like explore these weird nooks and crannies with these characters. It's just neat.
Well, that is where we are going to end our discussion on Hellions number 11. If you're looking for discussions of other X books out this week, just look elsewhere on the channel, because Xware on the channel. Let's make up some new X words because they're there. And the whole reason we get together and we do this, whether we love, hate, or feel indifferent about the X-Men issues of the week, is why, Fariha?
X-Men is better when it's read together.
That's right. And this was certainly a lot better to read it with all of you. So on the behalf of myself, of Fariha, Tyler, and Harry, we want to thank you for being a part of this Week in X discussion with us here on Crushing Comics. And until we see you again, we hope that you are well.
Bye.